And welcome to the Meatzy Show. But before we get started, I think we should watch some Tyler Shuck third down highlights. Roll it.
Man, that boy is shucking it, boy. Man, that boy is shucking it. That kid can play. That kid can definitely play. Man, it's going to be an exciting season to be a Saints fan. It's going to be an exciting season just to be a football fan. You know, I mean, the athletes coming out, this draft class, maybe not a deep draft class, and that's what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about the Saints pre-draft. You know, me and my dog Gio. But had to show Shuck's third down highlights. Had to show Shuck's third down highlights right there because, man, like, that's what gives us a chance. If you got somebody that can give you a chance on third down, third and long, and then uses legs, it's over with. It's over with. So we'll jump right into it. Episode 1 of the Meatzy Show. And we'll go right into it about who we think the Saints are going to draft. What could they draft? Who could they draft? Uh, could they go need or could they go best player available? Could they look for depth? Like what could they do? And it's interesting because if you look at all the different mock drafts that are up, and we're gonna put each one of them up. We'll start with Fox Sports, and the only consensus player that the Saints and the experts kind of go is Ruben Bain going at 8 to them. Uh, you have one analyst picking him at 8, but you have another analyst picking Jordan Tyson, which ain't a bad player neither. His workout, they say he didn't run too much, like or whatever. I wasn't there, but the kid can play. I mean, you watch his highlight film, and it's like, whew, you know. Another one, Ruben Bain. And it's just Bain. This guy was like Bain lined up in a two-point stance and as a pass rusher, defensive tackle at times. While man, suggesting his short area quickness and power could work in new defensive coordinator Brandon Staley's scheme. But I feel like, and that's just kind of like a prime example. Like I feel like all these people are like their main thing is like they can fit in the Brian Staley scheme or like Kellen Moore. Like they all can. Like there's like Downs does that. Is he gonna be there? I don't know. Love does that. Is he gonna be there? I don't know. Tyson does that. Is he gonna be there? I don't know. Bain, I don't know. Tate, I don't know. All the only one for sure that I think that we know is for Fernando Mendoza. And he's going to go number 1 to the Raiders. Like, he's going number 1 to the Raiders. He's like, I don't even need to go to the draft. I'm going to do a whole pig with my family back at Indiana or Miami or wherever he's from. I don't know. And that's what we're going to do. And we don't need the draft. We're not going to the draft. And kudos to him, dude. Shouldn't be. I've seen a lot of people hating on him, but it's like, okay, whatever. Like, grown ass man can do what he wants to do. Like, who are we to tell anybody in the world what they can and can't do? Like, just okay, whatever. All right, so moving on. Now, this is where it gets to like cornerback even, and I didn't even mention cornerback. But this next scout has the Saints picking Monsieur Delane, from LSU to cornerback, which is kind of like a thing too. Be like, man, that's great, but how many like good players from LSU have we been like, hey man, the Saints should get them, and the Saints don't never draft them. The Saints like it's always like a bring them back home type of player, like oh like even Reed, Matthew, Foster. Like this is just recent players, but it's always like the Saints. The Saints drafting in house, like in the state, from the good players is not. And maybe it didn't fall right or whatever. But it's. I'd like to know the statistic. It's really far few and in between. If I really had to guess, like I don't feel that it's I don't know. It's not something that I always that you see, because it's we always talk about it. So I mean, I think that's just the fact there, you know. This next one, this is where it got interesting, and this guy was on the Saints Block Party Pod. If you hadn't checked it out, like they are awesome. They're just as good as New Orleans Football's pod. New Wolf and Ryan like do a great job. Like just like Nick and Trip and everybody over at New Orleans football. Like that is my two go-to Saints sources, and they always got some cool intel. And they had a guy on, uh, can't remember exactly his name, but his mock draft, and this is where, and we like people throw wrenches last night. Seen on Hold the Mayo's live call-in show for the Monday night. They were talking about a guy named Mason Thomas, who's a name defensive lineman from Oklahoma, but Kenyon Sadiq, tight end Oregon. And that one's kind of like, wait, could we? Could we? And he makes this point. I'm going to read you what he says. The Saints need weapons as well as receivers. Consider that 2025 was a strong draft, yet Colston Loveland was the 10th pick, and Tyler Warren came off the board soon after. Shadiq is rated higher than both of those tight ends. And it would be kind of one of those things is like, would Moore want a tight end like that? Like we just signed Noah Fant. We have Jawan Johnson. Like is it something that we do? Is it something that we do? Look, everybody say hi to Gio. Gio wants to be lovely and friendly. Hold on, wait, just calm down. Calm down. Calm down. All right, let's go on to the next one. Now the next, then we start getting to like the ESPN picks, and I want to say Mel Kiper, Bucky Reed, different people like that I've went and just kind of seen, and they have Mansour Delane too right here, going to 8, and then next you have Reuben Bain Jr. So this is the what second, maybe third time that Bain is third time that Bain has been picked in a mock draft to them. Delane the second time, and that's where it gets really interesting, because who's gonna fall, who's not gonna fall. All right, Gio, lay down. But who's not gonna fall? Who's gonna keep? Who's gonna rise? Who's gonna be the unexpected draft pick that just just comes out of nowhere? How many receivers start coming off the board, and how fast do they start coming off the board? And I've kind of had this stance from the beginning of like I just want best player available. So if that's Downs, I want Downs. If that's Tyson, I want Tyson. If that's Tate, I want Tate. If that's Sadiq from Oregon, I want him. If that's Bain, I want Bain. Bailey, Averill, it doesn't matter whoever the Saints have rated as their best player available, take them. Because at this point, there's no way it's going to be an offensive lineman. Like, and then they might have an offensive lineman ranked up that high. I just hate you. They just can't go. They just can't go lineman. I like for them to go maybe try to get a rookie center. Have somebody that they can develop after Eric McCoy, and maybe try to get a guard. Which my only mock draft that I did, thanks to NewOrleansFootball.com and Nick Underhill, and they're great tools over there. If you're not a subscriber, I suggest you do that because like that's the best area to be a Saints fan. And I'm not sponsored. None. I just shout out to all these people because like they're the shit. It's just simple as that. So, but with their draft simulator, I finally did one, and I end up having Love. Let's see. I'll find it real quick. And but I had Jeremiah Love at number 8, and this is just how it fell. And he was sitting there, and he's like the fourth rated prospect, according to their tools. Then I had Emmanuel Pregnon, an interior offensive lineman, at 42. And my thought process there, because even when I posted it, people were like, oh, I'd rather lineman. But when I posted it, I was like, man, this guy here, if Ruiz doesn't work out like you would think he would work out, then you're gonna need somebody. And why? Like, we go through linemen and injuries so often, and losing Luke Fortner in the offseason and free agency, like, who's our backup center now? And that's where my concern really goes. Like, McCoy hasn't stayed healthy the last 2 years. Yeah, I know there's excitement. Fuaga, Banks. Now you got Edwards. Definitely shows up the left side of the line if McCoy can stay healthy. Ruiz is still a question mark on the right side, and the game's won in the trenches. And we can talk about like how great it is to have a playmaker with Jordan Tyson. We can talk about how great it is to have this impact player with Caleb Downs and with all this other stuff. The game is won in the trenches, and what the Saints have been able to do, have not been able to do the last couple of years, a few years, like since Drew really, is win in the trenches, and they've had all these unfortunate injuries where even in those highlights that we were showing of Tyler Shuck at the beginning of this third down highlights, where it was like three offensive linemen, backup offensive linemen, and like just receivers from the street. So we, at the end of the day, we have to shore up the depth of the offensive lineman, and at the same time, we have to shore up the depth and upgrade our defensive line because, like, yeah, we got a few pressures last year. Like, yeah, Cam had 10 something. Chase came on late, but he was 7 games into the season before he even played a snap. But other than that, there was nobody. There was nothing to really be like, oh yeah, And I just don't know. I think you have to shore up those two things, and that was my point about the picking the interior offensive lineman because if it helps us, it helps us down the road. And yeah, I know we need a receiver, but the next pick, round 3, I went with Malachi Fields, the wide receiver from Notre Dame. Then on round 4, I went Dalen Everett, the cornerback from Georgia. And then I addressed the defensive line in round 4 when we have those back-to-back picks at 132 and then 4 picks later at 136. I went Tim Keenan the third. Then round 5, I went Joe Royer, tight end, Cincinnati. Because you can't have enough good weapons. And then I was reading some stuff. I seen something the other day, or it might have been just a couple of days ago, that about Jeff Caldwell and his comparison to Megatron, Calvin Johnson from the Lions, and I was like, man, that is yeah. And if you can, and they were like, we can't understand how he's a late 5th, 6th round pick. And during this mock, he just so happened to be there in round 5 at 172, and I snagged him. And I was like, okay, so that helps out. That's 2 receivers, Malachi Fields, Jeff Caldwell, that we picked up. Yeah, and maybe it's not the big names, but to me, if you draft Jeremiah Love at 8, if he's there, like, it's a Reggie Bush type feel all over again for me. And like, yeah, Drew coming to the city in New Orleans was awesome. Sean Payton was coming awesome. But the popularity and the national attention that Reggie Bush brought was just as energetic and just as awesome as all the other stuff. Reggie returns the punt in the NFC Championship game for a touchdown. His first ever touchdown is a punt return TD to win the game against the Bucks. Like, that kid brought so much electricity and eyeballs to New Orleans, and it just so happened that we end up having the greatest quarterback of all time and probably one of the greatest coaches to ever coach the game there too, but the eyeballs were coming because Reggie was in the spotlight. He was in the Heisman Trophy winners, the number 2 pick. He was supposed to go number 1. They picked Memorial Williams, so like, Picking Jeremiah Love in a Kellen Moore second year is like I get a 2006 kind of vibe. I'm not saying we're gonna go to the NFC Championship, but Love's that type of player that elevates everybody around him. Where Love's another receiver. He's the playmaker. He's the guy. Give him the ball, and he's gonna break it for 80 yards. Kamara used to be that guy. Kamara, I'm not saying he lost a step. He's been having these nagging injuries. I don't see Kamara grabbing the ball and in the running the ball, touching the ball, and going 80 yards, making people miss like he used to. And that's just the nature of the game and the nature of being a running back and getting hit by these freaking giant behemoths of men, constantly over a whole season, 280 something times, 300 times, for 4 or 5 years. Like that's 1,500, 2,000 car wrecks, and it's like, God, so you understand the wear and tear of it. And it's just at that point, if Love's there at 8, you have to take him. Like you have to. Like in my opinion, you have to. I don't get paid to have an opinion, so it's just my take on it. You like to see Downs. You want that game changer. Like you read Nick Underhill's article about him and Staley and how he similar to Derwin James, and it's like, wow, like you could see it, and like Downs could be that. Like, hey, everybody get a Downs jersey. Like what we thought Kenny Vaccaro was going to kind of be whenever the Saints drafted him out of Texas back in Peyton's era. Or when was that? 14, 15 or something like that. But that never really panned out. And then you could go cornerback, unless you feel Kool-Aid's the man. Linebacker, I just kind of see with the signing of Ellis, Studsman, and everything, like linebacker. I mean, maybe it's Sonny Styles. Maybe Bailey's more of a pass rusher. Maybe it's Arvell Reese. But I don't see either Bailey or Arvell falling. I don't see Love falling. Like, it's gonna be interesting though, because like if one of these teams is like, oh, I need this offensive lineman and don't know. The crazy part about this draft and the most really interesting part about this draft that to me is gonna be kind of the most exciting is I forget how many teams, like 5 or 6 teams have 2 first round draft picks. So all likelihood, like even the Giants got 2 top 10 picks. All likelihood, one of these teams like somebody that much that they're like, oh shit, I'm going to get them. This is it. You're not stopping me. And that would be what I would see. And I said this just a couple weeks ago. I think there's going to be a lot of trades, a lot of trades, a lot of trades because there's so much trade capital. You got so many teams with first round picks, double first round picks, so many teams without first round picks too. That like, oh shit, like I really need some. I might have to come back, and I don't think people really are valuing um, the future draft assets like they used to, because the NFL is even asking for for they can trade future years even further, because I don't know what it is right now how far you can trade, but for them to trade future years, and we might pull that up right here and see, but to that I forget how many years like in advance. Like the NBA you can trade to for the next 100 years. It feels like the NBA is like, oh, 2035 first round draft pick unprotected goes to the Oklahoma City. It's like I don't even know if we'll be around that long, but that is exactly what the NFL is trying to do. So I don't. And then my next point would be the NIL money. The NIL money is so prominent in the college sports that I think you see it. Look at the athletes just 40 times. Look at the freak athletes that went to the combine this year. I mean, you talk about some people that were just, off the charts. Every other athlete you've seen or every other time you read somebody's scouting report or just looked at it or seen a post or something, it was like, oh, this freak, look this freak, look this freak. And it's like, that's what the money for these college athletes do, because they're not coming out of college no more needing that trainer, needing that nutritionist, needing that extra work, needing that that focus and that determine that whatever helps a real athlete get to that point. You know, the people behind the scenes, they already have it. They can afford to have it. They're not just coming off of a championship, national championship high, and they're still, you know, owe tuition and all this other stuff. It's just not, it's not in the future. And so when you have that, you have I think you have a lot more athletes that are coming out ready. And if they're not ready, they're better developmental products, you know, to have. And you might have something like the Saints did this year, like with a Jalen Polk. Like, okay, look, he's 23, 24 now, whatever he is. It didn't kind of work out over there, but he was a second round pick. But we know this guy. We kind of have a lot of tape on this guy. We've known people in the league around this guy, and he's worth taking a flyer on instead of a third round draft pick that you don't know what's gonna possibly you're gonna possibly get, you know. And I think that's just where it's gonna be headed. Where you're gonna see so many trades, and it's gonna be future trades, you know, and it's gonna be these outrageous contracts still, like it is, and it's gonna be these outrageous trades where eventually somebody's gonna want to trade up so bad they're gonna trade this year's first, next year's first, and the next year after that, you know, and I think that's just the market we're headed in, you know, because people need eyeballs, people want good players, and sometimes teams do crazy things and they don't, the future just goes out the window, you know, and you never know. I hope the Saints do that. I hope the Saints don't trade back up. I hope the Saints, I don't want them to trade down neither. Like, I don't want a number 8 player. If they do trade up though, and they don't think, and they have a guy in the first round, and they like, we have to go get our guy because he ain't gonna make it to 42. Then you do it. But I wouldn't give up no first round next year or no second round next year or anything like that. But I think, I mean, you got 2 forts, but you could package a second and 2 forts and like pop, maybe even if you feel that confident with like maybe next year's third or something. I don't know. Like it gets so dicey whenever it comes to those the trades and everything. So it's just one of those things that, look, I think it's gonna be awesome. I think it's going to be one hell of a draft night. And at the end of the day, whoever we get, I don't think it can be anybody bad. You know, I mean, even if you took one of the top offensive linemen, even if you took someone that we don't know about, like what this coaching staff did with Shuck, Sanker, Riley, Banks, who else? Stutzman. I know Vernon, the defensive lineman, he was hurt. But if you just look at the track, oh, that we had, I think we had the tight end too, huh? But if you look at the track record, he even started some games. So I trust the coaching staff to kind of make the good decision. Do I trust Mickey Loomis? I'm not so sure about that. But it kind of showed, like it was last year. It was like, okay, what are we doing? And kind of every one of those players turned out, you know. And I think Moore and Staley have an eye for talent. And if they can just get over on the draft, in the draft room, in the war room, and this their show, then I think we will definitely be all right. You know, definitely be all right. Just don't do nothing crazy. Best player available, you know. But we will be back next week on Tuesday, maybe Wednesday, to recap the draft and just to talk about each player the Saints drafted and what to expect from them. Appreciate you, and we'll see y'all next week. Peace.